apparently all the accolades that Caitlin Clark is receiving is because she's white, and the jealous players who are attacking her are really the real victims here.
Sheryl Swoopes she's lighting herself on fire, Steve. They had to pull her off a game because she can't be trusted to call Caitlin Clark games correctly or fairly. They basically pulled her off the game for racism. You're too much of a bigot to call Caitlin Clark games. We're pulling you off the game.
What a tangled situation this has become, especially when certain individuals choose to behave with clear hostility toward Caitlin Clark. And that tension feels even stronger now that
She made news last week when she sat up there and was applauding Indiana Fever players, but then forgot to mention Caitlin Clark. She jumped all in my ass because I sat up there and said, hey, how you going to ignore Caitlin Clark?
Swoopes is missing from today's broadcast. Just last week, Swoopes made headlines for sitting on air praising multiple Indiana Fever players while conveniently leaving Clark's name out. When Stephen A. Smith called her out, questioning how she could ignore Clark entirely, she became defensive. She challenged him for criticizing her commentary, even though his point was straightforward. How can someone analyze the entire Fever roster and somehow skip Clark? Whether intentional or not, the omission was impossible to overlook. Swoopes, a decorated champion, fired back on social media, insisting she had every right to talk about whoever she wanted on her podcast. She asked why she couldn't choose her subjects freely and questioned whether Smith had listened to the whole episode. He confirmed he did, and pointed out that she mentioned every single player except Clark. It was so blatant that viewers began questioning whether bias was at play. During this same stretch, a major controversy erupted involving Diamond DeShields after a rough play with Clark in the Chicago Sky game. Swoopes defended DeShields, even though the guard faced intense online criticism for the foul. Clark's supporters urged her to stay strong, telling her that bitterness from others wouldn't prevail. As backlash against DeShields grew, which many felt was deserved, discussions intensified about how personal tensions toward Clark were contributing to the issue. Some fans noted that most of Chicago's recent flagrant fouls seemed to involve Clark, raising concerns that jealousy was clouding certain players' judgment. Commentators warned that unresolved resentment could harm team dynamics, emphasizing that great teams unite behind the biggest stars, just like players once rallied around Michael Jordan and Larry Bird. But many doubt whether Clark will ever receive that same level of support. Swoopes has consistently fueled the conversation, her criticism becoming so persistent that it ultimately affected her broadcast appearances. When accusations emerged suggesting her opinions were motivated by prejudice, she dismissed them firmly, arguing that she advocates for players she personally knows. Yet fans couldn't ignore that she refused to acknowledge Clark's contributions, even going silent for nearly a minute during a segment praising Clark for Player of the Week. That silence came across as petty and unprofessional, strengthening the narrative that Clark was being excluded deliberately. Stephen A. Smith even warned that this behavior adds fuel to those who believe Clark faces targeted hostility. Meanwhile, the conversation grew more complicated when references resurfaced about DeShields receiving hateful and threatening messages after her foul on Clark, a disturbing and unacceptable reaction by individuals online. None of that excuses the foul, but it shows how volatile the situation has become. Fans also debated which incident was worse, the Kennedy Carter hit or the Diamond DeShields play, as both moments added to the public frustration around Clark being repeatedly singled out. Many fear this tension will escalate if players cannot separate personal feelings from professional competition. At the same time, Swoopes' past coaching controversy resurfaced. A scandal from 2008 reappeared when 10 of her 12 Loyola University players accused her of creating an abusive environment. Former players said they felt belittled, humiliated, and constantly threatened with losing scholarships. Some wondered whether her combative approach toward Clark reflects a long-standing pattern. Footage from old news reports resurfaced, making fans question whether Swoopes' current behavior mirrors issues from her coaching days. Her remarks about Clark only poured more gasoline on the fire. Swoopes recently argued that Angel Reese deserved Rookie of the Year over Clark, claiming Indiana was simply a stronger team. That statement made little sense considering the Fever's years of struggling. She even claimed Clark took 40 shots a game in college while averaging 19 points, a false statement that Gilbert Arenas inexplicably allowed to pass without correction. Fans called this an attempt to diminish Clark's talent intentionally. As Swoopes kept pushing her narrative, more viewers questioned her motives. Many pointed out that her continual refusal to name Clark's contributions looked intentional, especially when she analyzed Fever wins and praised Lexi Hull, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston while still avoiding Clark's name. Clips of her long silence during broadcasts circulated widely, viewed as a petty display of personal resentment. Analysts warned that this behavior didn't just make Swoopes look biased, it undermined her credibility entirely. This growing criticism eventually led to a shakeup in broadcast assignments. For today's Fever vs. Wings game, the Wings official site now lists Ron Thulin and legendary Hall of Famer Nancy Lieberman as the commentators, replacing Swoopes. When a viewer posted excitement about hearing her call the game, Swoopes responded sarcastically with, "Not today, Satan," confirming her absence. Her comment only intensified speculation about whether she was removed due to ongoing controversy. Meanwhile, Clark continues to deal with every physical play becoming a national debate. Some people argue that anytime she's fouled, fans interpret it as envy or targeted aggression. Kennedy Carter, one of the league's top guards, has been dragged repeatedly into that narrative, even without evidence of personal animosity. The league is now facing a perception battle, and Swoopes' repeated dismissals of Clark only make it worse. Swoopes' criticism also extended beyond broadcasting. She questioned the legitimacy of Clark breaking records unless she achieved them under the exact same conditions as previous players, a stance many called unreasonable. Her repeated negativity has pushed fans to revisit past allegations and question whether personal animosity, not basketball, is driving her behavior. The scrutiny intensified as old videos resurfaced of former Loyola players describing how Swoopes created a toxic environment years ago. One former athlete recalled being constantly demeaned and living in fear of being cut. These resurfaced allegations made many wonder whether Swoopes' current hostility toward Clark stems from deeper issues unrelated to the court. Fans also noticed Swoopes making inconsistent claims about statistical behavior in the league. Former WNBA player Val Whiting stirred conversation after questioning whether Clark was padding her stats when going after a 10th rebound. Her question quickly escalated, causing fans to accuse Whiting of unfairly singling out Clark while ignoring similar efforts from other players, including Angel Reese. Many argued that players always know their stats because they're displayed on arena scoreboards, and going after rebounds is simply part of being competitive. A few reactions were harsh, with one fan accusing Whiting of damaging her own legacy by targeting a 22-year-old who has done nothing to warrant such criticism. Another fan jokingly responded that the rebound literally fell straight to Clark. What was she supposed to do? Ignore it? Some even suggested Whiting's tweet was simply meant to provoke. Across this entire debate, the underlying theme remains the same.